Victor was at the prime of his life. He had just decided to continue his education after dropping out 7 years ago. He had enrolled into Patrick Henry Community College. He called me to ask me to borrow my creative writing book. He never came to get the book. He was the type of person that never met a stranger. He would strike up a conversation with anybody that came in his presence. Your family easily became his family because he would invite himself to all your family events. He could very well be thought of as sunshine on a cloudy day. There was never a time that I can say that he would not make you laugh when he came into your presence. He was my friend. When Victor found out that I had breast cancer, he was somewhat beside himself. I remember saying to him, it's okay, Victor. And he's like, no, not you, not my friend. I could see the tears that he was welling back up in his eyes. But later when I talked to his mother, she told me he did come and cry on her shoulder. Who would have ever thought that he would go to heaven before me? Victor was my husband's cousin. He often would come over to the house day in and day out because, you see, his dad died when he was very young, and his mother had 3 children, 2 which were girls, so Tim was more like a father figure to him. When our children began to grow up, he was there for them as their big brother. I'll never forget when he got his first job, and when Dick said he would call, Morgan, what is it you want for Christmas? Or TJ, what do you want for your birthday? He knew that TJ loved video games, and he would go in there and play with him hours at a time. I would never forget that he would take my children places where I can take them to myself when my schedule would not permit. There was so much to love about Victor. I sometimes would get jealous when he would go and see other people into the community before stopping at my house. But when he came there, it was on. I would tell him, okay, now we got to go downstairs and we're going to play on that guitar stuff. We would form our own little gospel band. He would get on the microphone because everybody that knew Victor, and you guys can attest, that he could sing, and he did a marvelous job with it. He was my very own comedian. It was nothing for him to come to my house and sit for hours imitating his grandfather in the way he talked, or the mothers of the church in the way they would sing a song. Sometimes Victor would be so intense with his facial expressions in church that people will always look to him to see, especially when someone would catch the Holy Spirit. I would never forget the Sunday that Victor caught the Holy Spirit. Then the people looked at him to imitate him, as he had done them so many times before. But you know what? He took it with a smile. He was just that type of person. I remember getting the day that I got the phone call that Victor had passed. I was at the hospital with my niece who had just had twin girls. I felt surreal because I couldn't believe it to be true. My husband called me and I said to him, how can a man that's only 26 die from complications of hypertension? They said that a seizure is what finally caused his demise. I was in total denial because Victor was my friend. He was young and he had so much to live for. And he had just did some things that some of us will never do. He just came back from on a cruise with some of his friends at work. Victor was loved by so many people. And most assuredly, he was loved by God the most. Having known Victor was a great pleasure for me, my family, and your family. I will never forget that he was there for my children, and he loved them unconditionally and wholeheartedly. He will be greatly missed by all. Each of us have our own memories, and we can use them at any time when we get lonely to think about him. Victor knew that one day this would happen because he had already made preparations with God. He forestated in his imitating of everybody else that at his funeral, he didn't want you crying or running up and down the aisles like you had no hope, because he knew that this is not the end, but it's really a start to a new beginning. If he was here now, he would be ready to give his rendition of what's happening here right now. He knew that laughter was the secret medicine to everything. How he would make a person laugh, he knew that they would be able to cry long if something was going bad in their life. To his mother, Vicki, I thank you for giving me the opportunity to allow Victor to be a part of my life. He touched other lives as well. I will always have a special place for him in my heart. Victor will never be forgotten. At family functions, at church, or even when he comes in and came to our basement to sing. I believe that one day we will see each other again, and in that day, we will pick up right where we left off.